You write it, John. Don't forget. No, I won't forget. Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and call our meeting for November 6th to order, and I would ask that you please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mayor John Dennis. I believe the podium is yours.
You'll need to hit the button. Hit it again. There you go.
You're good.
There you go.
Normally I'm on that side of the podium, so this is kind of new to me. Just a few things. The first one's real quick, and just say no to giving away the water. Pretty simple stuff. There's a lot of good reasons to give away water, most specifically when they help us, but West Side's against it. I know Tony's against it, and I trust you guys are too. Yes. That's cool. The second thing is that I want to say goodbye. As you know, I'm retiring at the end of this year. Not necessarily because I want to. It's just must be done. But more importantly, we have kicked some serious ass as elected officials over the past 16 years. And some of us go back further than that, Tracy. And really, a lot of people don't understand how unusual it is for political bodies to have this type of relationship and respect for each other. Getting things done in an elected process is often the hardest thing to do. It's harder than any other thing that you can prepare for in life, because each and every person that we represent in these communities have a vote. And those votes mean something, specifically to those people. And for us to get together and do things like change the entire dynamic of a county is pretty unique. And the way that we did it is by working together. I will miss you guys. I'll miss going to D.C., of which we can't talk about that, even when I'm gone. More importantly, I'll miss the understanding that if I needed a friend, whether I'm in a squad car, in a meeting, or out at the fairgrounds, I have one. And that means a lot to me. So, I want you guys to remember how good we've been, remember how good we are, and above all else, remember all that we have done. And it's not been done because of our individual intelligence, authority, or power. It's been done because we work together. Enjoy yourselves, have great careers, and I love you guys. Thank you.
The minutes from our meeting on October 16th have been distributed.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve those minutes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Paula, presentations of accounts payable.
Mr. President, I would like to recommend the claims from October 18th through November 6th, 2023 be approved without exception, please.
So move.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. Payroll, Paula?
Mr. President, I would also like to recommend the payroll dated October 27th, 2023 be approved without exception.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that motion passes. Good morning, Sadie.
Good morning. The first item on my agenda is the Anthem renewal and a change to our stop-loss carrier. Doesn't change any of our benefits or plans, it's just a new stop-loss carrier. I have signed the documents necessary, just need approval for those.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve the Anthem Fixed Administrative Cost Agreement and the contract for the new stop-loss carrier.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve both the stop-loss option and the, what was the second document?
Stop-loss. Oh, I'm sorry, the Anthem Fixed
The
Administrative
Anthem
Cost.
fixed administrative cost and the stop-loss options. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Thank you. My second item is the professional services agreement with Proactive. This is just an update to our Proactive agreement. It hasn't been updated or rewritten since inception, so there are some fee changes we've thoroughly reviewed. Doug has reviewed those with us as well. I have that here for your signature.
Okay. And there is, I think, one issue that I know Doug wanted to review.
Yeah, I mean, you said it hadn't been changed since the inception. I don't have any problem with the substance from what I've seen. It's just, if I'm reading the history correctly, I think we did update it in 2019. I haven't gotten them to say that they're recognizing it or not. And it just comes down to a technical reference about what section we're amending with the update. The 2019 version had something in section 5 versus the 2016, that same piece was in section 4. So it's nothing that you really have to worry about too much, but so if you could just approve it subject to legal review, I'd appreciate it. And if you could get them to just straightforwardly say whether 2019 happened or did not happen, I would appreciate it.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We approve the professional services agreement with Proactive MD, subject to legal approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes.
My final item is an update to an opt-out notice from the Sheriff's Department. The original opt-out was contradictory in the one document, so it was stating that vacation leave did not count. It tried to say vacation leave counted as hours worked, and then at the bottom it said that vacation leave must be made up. So this is just to shore up what was intended, and that vacation leave counts as hours worked for the positions listed.
You got any questions?
I don't
Tom
have any
does.
questions. The only thing I will note is there's a formatting issue on the actual statement, so you may want to, on the second to the last paragraph.
Yeah.
Oh, what did you do wrong, Sadie?
It looks like it has your signature.
This is just so once you approve it, we can
Sadie's
fill in whatever
signature
you
anywhere on
want.
that document.
No, thank you very much for understanding. We've gotten to the point, to add to this, that the reason for this is we've had to force overtime in our jail. We're 21 short, and we have to force them to work now. And when they take vacation time and then have to work, make all those hours back, it makes it very difficult to get people to want to come in. And I understand that completely. So thank you for understanding and approving this.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Mr. President, I move that we approve this overtime policy change for the Sheriff's Office as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And the motion passes.
Thank you. Thanks, Sadie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie.
Mr. President, I move that we hear ordinance 2023-23-CM, Uzo Amendment Number 111.
Second.
Mr. Hiddle?
Good morning, David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission. We have a amendment to the ordinance which has two components. The first properly distinguishes between modular homes and manufactured homes in the zoning ordinance. This was requested by Building Commissioner Mike Wolf because our ordinance had been defining a manufactured home in the way that it should be defining a modular home, and it had been causing confusion for his customers. So this properly distinguishes between the two. In short, a modular home is akin to a stick-built home in that it's durable, it's permanent. Parts of it are built off-site and then delivered, but it's otherwise treated as a stick-built regular home, whereas a manufactured home is more akin to a mobile home. So this change would straighten that out. The other part has to do with agricultural rental halls. We changed the ordinance earlier this year to impose a set of restrictions on agricultural rental halls involving limiting operating hours, prohibiting outdoor amplified music, limiting guest capacity, and requiring certain setbacks. And those were intended for actual agricultural rental halls to protect the more pastoral, agricultural, rural environment. But there are some ag rental halls that are actually in general business zoning districts, which is not an agricultural setting. So those kinds of requirements aren't necessarily fitting there. So this change would make it clear that those limitations and prohibitions have to do with actual agricultural settings and not general business GB settings. So those are the two.
Any questions for David?
No.
Would anyone from the public like to comment on this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none?
Byers?
Yes.
Murtaugh?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-23-CM passes 3-0.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion. We hear ordinance 2023-24-CM.
Second.
Thank you. This is Z-2908. The petitioner and the property owner is Harvey Biddle, and he has property totaling about 2 3/4 acres on the east side of Americus, on the far east side of the platted residentially zoned area of the unincorporated town of Americus, that he is requesting to rezone from R1 to A. A is agricultural, R1 is single-family dwelling. These are 8 platted lots with vacated alleys separating some of them. Unimproved, used agriculturally, currently zoned R1. His proposal is to consolidate the lots to build a manufactured home and a pole barn. If this were further in town in Americus, this may constitute spot zoning, but it is right on the fringe where it meets agricultural zoning, and in fact it has been historically used agriculturally. So staff is supportive of this. This got a unanimous vote in favor at the Area Plan Commission last month, and so we're recommending support today.
Any questions for Mr. Hiddle? Anyone from the public like to make a comment about this rezone?
Good morning, Kevin Riley, RTS Law, representing the petitioner.
Good
I
morning.
agree with the staff's report. I think that this is an appropriate zone, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none?
Murtaugh?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Byers?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-24-CM passes 3-0.
Mr. President, I move we hear ordinance 2023-25-CM, Z-2906.
This is Z-2906. Petitioner, property owners Nicholas Rohr and wife Caitlin Rohr. This is a property that is a little under 6 acres, just south and west of the Purdue Airport, east side of Sharon Chapel Road, and a little bit north of River Road to help you get your bearings a little bit. Again, 5.85 acres. It's a wooded lot improved with a single-family house and a variety of accessory structures. It is zoned R1. The request here is to rezone to AW. AW is agricultural wooded. This came to us, the petitioner filed this after receiving a zoning violation. A neighboring owner complained that there was an animal sanctuary being operated from the site. Staff investigated, found out there was, and that use is not permitted by right in the R1 district. So issued the zoning violation. When you get a zoning violation, you make the decision either to file the land use petition to legally establish the use, or you cease the use. In this case, they have gone the route of trying to legally establish it. It's a two-step process. First, they would have to rezone to AW, and then if that rezoning is approved, they would have to file a special exception, which would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals to allow specifically for the animal sanctuary use. What you have in front of you today is strictly the rezoning, so the only question has to do with whether or not AW is an appropriate zoning district for this site. If this is approved, then all questions about the operation and potential nuisance, suitability of animal sanctuary use would be heard at the special exception hearing. So again, today is just the rezoning. Staff is supportive of this, and it did get approved by the Area Plan Commission. That was a split vote, 10-5, and 10 in favor, 5 against. The reason we're recommending approval here is AW is a suitable district here. There is agricultural zoning to the south. There's agricultural zoning to the north and the west, although the property is surrounded by R1 zoning at present. But AW is suitable for larger lots, for lots that are wooded or sloped, for more rural settings. R1 is generally intended for where there is the presence of septic, or rather sanitary sewer and water and other utilities. Those don't exist here, nor are they planned for any time soon. And as we're working currently on the Wabash and Tippecanoe Township plans, we're seeing that there's generally a strong sentiment here for this area to remain rural, pastoral, more along the lines of AW than R1. So we're supportive of this. Again, all questions having to do with the actual animal sanctuary use would be brought to bear and scrutinized at the BZA hearing if this is approved. So we're supportive and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
If I'm understanding right, there have been animals at this place before. Just because it's a sanctuary is really why it needs to be rezoned?
Yeah, it's operating as a 501c3. They have educational programs. It's more than the agricultural district would allow by itself.
Okay.
So we found that they do need a special exception for this niche particular use.
Okay.
Thank you. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this rezone?
Hello, good morning. Nicholas Rohr. Just wanted to let you in on a little bit. We've been here for a little over 3 years, had the animals the entirety of the time. We're on private well, septic. We have our own solar. We believe that it is going to be properly zoned as AW. We weren't made aware until earlier this year that we were improperly zoned, but a lot of the houses along the road have gravel drives. I wouldn't call us a typical residential zone. We've been operating this sanctuary for, like I said, a better part of 3 years now. Haven't been made aware of any complaints from neighbors. All of our information's readily available to reach out to. So if you have any questions, please feel free.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's a paper there to sign your name in, I think. If you would, please. Thank you.
So how many animals do you have?
Currently, 18.
And do you know the nature of the zoning complaint? You know, was it something that was...
I read the complaint. I wasn't clear on the actual.
I mean, was it
problem.
odor? Was it noise? Was it...
None of that was listed.
Okay. And then are Are there residences on the property to the north and south of you?
Yes.
There are, okay.
So as a 501(c) and doing educational programming, what does the traffic look like that
So
on
we
that side?
have no more than like 5 events a year, and we'll at most have 20 cars on the property, but we're towards the front, towards South River Road, so a lot of the traffic doesn't even go beyond our road. But they park in our side field, so it's a lot just right off and right in. The events don't last more than 3 hours at a time. Like I said, 5 events a year. I mean, we don't cause like a lot of backup. It's a lot of come and go.
And are these private events, or are these events
Yes.
that are opened up
No.
to the public?
They are private. We put up a sale, we limit the amount of people allowed to come in, whatever we feel is below our max, and then we put those up for sale for like a couple bucks a piece.
Okay, so, but those go on sale to the general public?
Yes.
If I wanted to buy a ticket and come
Sure.
out and walk around the sanctuary, I could do that. And
Yes.
do you offer concessions or restroom facilities, I'm guessing?
We do get a porta potty on the facility. We don't typically offer concessions. We've talked about it, but it's not really up on our list.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Jenkins, and I came here from Edinburgh, Indiana. I also run an animal sanctuary, a 501c3, and have been through this exact rezoning, so I'm here in support of Caitlin and Nicholas. They have been incredibly helpful to me, so I wanted to point out that their sanctuary not only touches just Tippecanoe County, but they have made improvements for people as far as down as Edinburgh, and we've worked on other cases out of state. So I've been to their property several times, helped with their animals. They take wonderful care. There's no hoarding going on. It's definitely a beautiful area that I assumed was agricultural when I visited as well. And really, I'm just here in support of what they're trying to do. We have, as you guys probably know, animal rescues are busting at the seams, cat, dog, and the same thing with farm animals. So the more people we have like them that will provide space for these animals in their home, I think is wonderful. So I just drove up here this morning to show my support for them. Then you want me to sign this?
Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caitlin. I also live at the property with Nick. As Nick mentioned, today we're simply asking to gain the appropriate recommended zoning for our property to allow us to keep the animals safe in our home. The animal sanctuary, as far as that goes, that's a separate hearing if we can continue to operate as that. But today, we just want to be able to get the appropriate zoning and allow us to keep the animals safe. We're concerned there might be some misconception as to what the animal sanctuary means. What a sanctuary is defined is a place of refuge and protection, or a refuge for wildlife. And so what that means to us is that we simply opened up our home as a safe haven for animals. We did preserve the entire back half of the property for wildlife, and then we welcomed a select number of domesticated animals who needed a safe home. And if we're able to, we will adopt out any animals to more appropriate homes. So the ones that we keep are ones that are not easily adopted out. Of course, this wasn't an inexpensive endeavor. Animals are not cheap, especially when you're getting them appropriate vet care. So we did register as a 501c3 nonprofit and engaged in some fundraising efforts to help us offset the cost. Most of those have taken place entirely online. We provide resources to the public of places they can go when we can't help, and that's the majority of what we do. We have hosted community events. Like this year, we hosted 3, and they last maybe 2 to 3 hours. They're maybe the size of a typical baby shower, graduation party, nothing big, but that is something that if it's causing a problem, we're willing to negotiate and give up to keep the animals safe. As Nick mentioned, we don't live in a traditional residential neighborhood. We don't have sidewalks. We have gravel driveways. It's very much agricultural. And we believe we've had a positive impact on the property since moving in. When we moved in, the woods were taken over with invasive honeysuckle. And it is wooded.
You're okay. Breathe. You're okay. Breathe.
I think she locked her legs.
It's okay. Sit all the way down. Yeah, good. Okay. Hi. My name's Kate Yunt. I'm the president and co-founder of Canada Farm Sanctuary. Sorry. I'll catch up on Caitlin's in a minute for her, give her a chance to take a breath. This is really emotional for all of us, to be honest. I met Caitlin and Nick in, I think it was 2019. We rescued 10 pigs from a hoarding situation, and in 2020, they adopted their first pigs from us. I'm out in Ambia, Indiana, by the way, so we cover not only this section of Indiana, but all over the Midwest. Farm animals don't have loving homes, and that's something that Caitlin and Nick are willing to provide. Our sanctuary gets a call a day for a pig in need, and Caitlin and Nick are willing to step up for many of those animals. Even if you don't allow them to continue their 501c3, making them rehome these animals would be so detrimental, not only to them as people, to the animals that live there, but to the whole community. There aren't homes. That's just the end of that. So I truly hope that you guys consider letting those animals stay in their loving, amazing home that they have by allowing them to rezone to agriculture. Let me see where Caitlin was at. Oh, I also have to say that I visited their property when they had first moved there, and the trash in that barn was, you would just not believe it. They have done beautiful things with that property. Okay, let's see. Sorry. Okay, I think that she says, we do not live in a traditional residential neighborhood. We don't have sidewalks, and half of us have gravel driveways. We are surrounded by agricultural land, much of which is used for animals, including horse boarding, the Purdue Airport, a soil company, Purdue Trap and Skeet, the Weotnon Preserve, a restaurant, most within walking distance. Animals such as ours have been kept on our property for decades. When we purchased the property, it was already equipped with a barn and horse stables that has been used for animals in the past. There are multiple neighbors with farm animals, much like ours, that live on the lane as well, including goats, chickens, and horses. Should any issues with the animals arise, such as damage to an existing enclosure, we take immediate action to remedy the issue. We believe that we have made a positive impact on the property since moving in. When we purchased the property, the woods were taken over with invasive honeysuckle, which we have worked for the past 3 years to begin to remove to make space for native plants.
In clearing the woods, we have come to find an array of trash that is left scattered throughout, mostly old beer bottles, soda cans, broken glass, and cans of chewing tobacco. We care to rid the property of this as well, so to not cause hazards to any wildlife in the area. Each outbuilding on the property, the garage, barn, log cabin, and shed were all packed full of items including trash and a variety of hazardous chemicals ranging from buckets of tar to bug repellents, broken and leaking gasoline and propane tanks, old paint, and so much more. Since moving in, we have purchased more than 5 industrial-sized dumpsters and have worked to rid the property of the trash that had compiled over the years. We have taken 2 standard-sized truck beds of hazardous chemicals to a chemical processing plant to ensure the proper disposal, as well as recycling over 10 truckloads of scrap metal left on the property. We have put in much of our time and money to ensure the ongoing preservation and upkeep of the land. We believe that we have made a positive impact to the land during our years of owning the property and would like to continue to do so. There have also been attempts to gain residential zoning for land on River Road. Many of the same neighbors opposed to our rezoning have voiced opposition to this rezoning as well, specifically mentioning wanting to preserve the wooded area on the land and not wanting residential zoning in the area. The zoning we are attempting to secure, agricultural wooded, would do just that, preserve the wooded land in the area. As mentioned before, we are more than willing to work with any of our neighbors to address any concerns they have. First and foremost priority today is to obtain the AW zoning for our property. This is the recommended zoning for our property. It helps to preserve and protect the land, and it makes the most sense for our location. Well, the pen isn't working. There we go. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Atchison. I will keep it short. I'm a resident of West Lafayette, and I just wanted to speak in support of what Caitlin and Nick are doing with the property. We have personally seen it go from a property that did have a large amount of trash on it. They've cleaned it up. I feel like they've improved the community, and my children do benefit from the education programs that they have. It's something that my children talk about and have learned from, and we would like to continue to be able to have that experience at their property. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Miller. I am a lifelong friend of Caitlin and Nick. Caitlin I've known for the past 17 years approximately. I've been honored to be a part of their family and huge life events, including the move to this home. I remembered when they had obtained this home and it was their dream home. They're so excited, and it's always been their dream to run a sanctuary. And while I know today is not about the sanctuary, it's about the rezoning, I did just want to mention that those animals that we've rescued and have on the property have been like pets to us, essentially. They're our family as well. We've gotten great connection with those animals. They all have their own personalities that we love to interact with. My understanding is that there's a very small amount of numbers we can have as a residential, and that we'd have to get rid of basically all of those animals if we were not rezoned to agricultural wooded. So sanctuary aside, even if that petition doesn't do what we hope, that's fine, as long as we can still keep our family there with the animals and everything. I also just did want to mention, I know it was touched on the traffic. As Nick had mentioned, we only have a couple events per year, so there's really very limited increase in traffic. The Feast of the Hunter's Moon is right past our road as well, so there's significant traffic during that whole weekend, more than you'll ever see at our sanctuary. We're also, just to put it in perspective for you, we're the second house on the right when you turn onto that road. So most of these neighbors that have spoken up recently are farther back on that road. So there really shouldn't be seeing increased traffic since it's right in and right out. Again, if people are accidentally taking the wrong turn out, we can definitely put up more signs. You know, that's something we can work with to address. But ideally, you shouldn't be seeing any of that increased traffic. It was started to be touched on that we do have personal events. Obviously, we have kids there. We have birthday parties. Caitlin has gotten her bachelor's degree and her master's degree while they've been residing there. So we've had graduation celebrations, you know, Thanksgivings, and of course we have multiple families. So we have the family Thanksgiving, we have the friends Thanksgiving, and so on. So honestly, there's probably more increased traffic from those events than there is ever from our sanctuary events, which again isn't necessarily, at least I'm biased, obviously, but from my perspective, isn't necessarily a burden to the neighbors. But again, if there's any issues with our private events as well with that traffic, like, we'd be more than happy to try to come up with some accommodation for sure. So overall, as you heard, agricultural wooded is a suitable and recommended zoning option for this area. And I think it was mentioned there's some animals nearby, like when you're driving on River Road, you pass multiple horse areas, and so again, we genuinely had no idea that we were rezoned improperly because there's animals all around us. We have 5 acres, so please consider rezoning us to agricultural wooded so we can keep our family, our animals. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andy Jabinski. I'd like to read this for you. A quote from Will Rogers goes, "All I know is just what I read in the papers." Nowadays, it's probably not in the papers, but more like posted online. Marta, my wife, and I, we live at 1220 South Sharon Chapel Road on about 12 acres in the county, on well water, a septic system, with responsibility for our own garbage pickup, and we have lots of trees, most of them we planted. On a Belladonna web post, I read, "Our home is zoned in correctly as residential in an area that should be agricultural, and so are, as it turns out, many of the surrounding homes. We do reside there also." Further in the short post, I read, "Many of the families in our neighborhood have animals that are not allowed in residentially zoned areas, or they have more than 3 animals, which is the maximum number allowed in residentially zoned areas. Interestingly, Tippecanoe County does not specify a number or type of animal an owner may keep, but states the owner must maintain animals in a quantity no greater than the owner can properly care for, such that conditions are not hazardous to the health or well-being of the animal. This must mean, for example, having enough cleared land as pasture for grazing animals. I don't believe animals need to be displaced in our neighborhood." Next, the post says there are people opposed to providing animals with sanctuary in our neighborhood. The reference is to these same families with animals. There are several. The love for their animals is obvious. The neighbors take care of their animals and even each other's animals when the need arises, as when one family or another is traveling. They do so gladly, all for the love of and benefit of the animals, without the need for a business to collect donations for that purpose. Like I said, this is only one short post, and there are more erroneous postings. Why would a website for an entity that touts itself a resource post misleading information? I believe that simply people are being riled and rallied into action for the benefit of those that post. Those people are outsiders to the community. They don't live in the neighborhood. People that live there have made their positions known to you in writing, I believe. You're being asked to give permission so Belladonna Sanctuary and Animal Resource can continue operating as they have been without permission, but with a feeling of entitlement. I, for one, don't envy your positions. Decisions you make can directly impact the lives of everyday people, and that is an awesome responsibility. I thank you and respect you for the work you do on behalf of the citizens of our county. I started with a quote from Will Rogers. The part normally cited is only half of the quote. The full quote is, "All I know is just what I read in the papers, and that's an alibi for my ignorance." We need to be careful what we read online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Todd Boyd, 1199 South Sharon Chapel. Last month when we were here, I just kind of want to bring this up, but there was a vote 5 to 10. And one of the comments was that that there was no subdivisions in the area and they're all, large lots, and that's incorrect. I actually am in a subdivision, and it's Squire Arbor Minor Subdivision. All of us have large homes. All of the homes on South Sharon Chapel are nice, large homes. They're all R1. I know there was a recommendation for this to be rezoned to agricultural wooded, and all of the properties have, wooded, are all wooded properties. For that matter, I think I have 54 pine trees in my front yard. I do want to talk about safety. Thursday, I think it was Thursday morning, I was sitting at the bus stop. The bus comes and pulls in, and one of the trucks that just left Belladonna's Animal Sanctuary pulled right out in front of the school bus, stopped. That's a safety issue. I know there's a cow that's been loose, a pig that has been loose. There was an incident where one of the neighbors was rushed by some dogs. I've seen chickens running on the street on more than one occasion. I'm just asking you guys to rethink this. There was 5 families here that was in opposition. I was the only one that came up and talked. So I just, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Marta Jubinski. My husband was up here before Todd to speak, and I only have a few other things I want to add. I brought some things to you a week or so ago. I hope you've had time to read them, and so I don't need to go through those again. But one thing I want to say is they keep emphasizing about the trash that they had to clean up when they moved there. Well, the lady who they sold it to them agreed with them that they would clean that up because she moved to Arizona and she didn't have time to finish. So they make it sound like it was, just dumped on them at the last minute. They knew they were getting into that. And also, I think that this is just a small residential area. we don't need a sanctuary. It should be somewhere else. I'm not opposed to animal sanctuaries. I just don't think it belongs on our small road. And like Todd said, there are safety issues, and there are small kids in our neighborhood, and they're just, and now, I don't know if you've heard this, but Caitlin is going to have a business in her house, a therapy business. So that's going to involve more traffic, and is that zoned properly for a home business? So there are just a lot of things that need to be considered, and they said that they don't have to worry about, or we don't have to worry about cars coming down our road. Well, we've lived there since 1976, and random cars will come down our road that don't even have any business coming down there, but then when you invite, people in, they're going to go, it's just common, people want to know. They want to see what's, where we live. And we just don't need all this traffic down our road. And I don't like, it's like they're scoping the place out, and it makes me feel not as safe as I've been since 1976. So I just feel like it just needs to go somewhere else. And I'm sorry that they put all that work into it, but they did that before they knew what the rules were. And then they expect everybody to say, oh gosh, that's too bad, we'll help you out here. No, before you invest all that time and money, find out what you need to know. Don't use the excuse that there are other places around that have horses. Well, that's Purdue property. I mean, they can have horses. That's their vet school. So their arguments are not good enough. And I just don't know that they have enough. 5.85 acres for a house and 4 outbuildings and all that room that they park cars, and then where are they going to graze their animals? Because if you look at the GIS, it's farmland. More of it's wooded than there's open space. And we haven't noticed any, we've noticed noise. We've heard noise, but we haven't, like the pigs, we haven't had any smells or anything, not yet. But, who knows? So anyway, I could probably go and stand here forever, but I'll just stop. I just wanted to give you that information about the zoning, that they didn't have that up front, they should have. And ignorance is not an excuse. Before you're going to do something like that, you need to check that you've got everything that you need to have done. And thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
Good morning. Good to see everybody. I think anybody that knows me, my name is Brad Rohr, and I care deeply about our community, have for years, and I think anybody that's worked with me before knows this. And I think what I instilled in Nicholas growing up and what he's doing now with Caitlin is that, caring about his community. So we're talking about a zoning issue right now. The later debate about sanctuary and so forth, I think, is going to be heard at a later point, and I hear everybody's comments in the back. At the end of the day, what they're trying to do is try to find a place for these animals to live and exist without being harmed in any way. So, I mean, that area in South River Road, surrounded by Purdue Airport, surrounded by horse farms, when you drive down the road, nobody would think that there would be any residential areas in there. I get that and I understand that, and they should do some research on that. But at the end of the day, it is a wooded agricultural area. In my opinion, it needs to be zoned that way. They're trying to do what they feel is the right thing, what a lot of us would like to do. We can't keep moving potential areas because we don't want to deal with it, but we know it needs to happen. What they're trying to do is act on that and try to really take it and help support the community. If you look at the kids and stuff, I go out there before and watch the kids and they learn what they're teaching. Purdue Veterinary Services come out and they take their students out there and learn how to treat animals. So it is a very useful piece for our community, and I think that's what's really important and what we're missing here is the usefulness of this to our community. So I appreciate your time this morning and thank you very much, and it's good to see everybody again.
Any additional public comment? Mr. Roller, any rebuttal as petitioner? Okay. Any questions from the board or comments?
I would just say that I think Mr. Hiddle's comments at the very beginning are, very appropriate. Obviously, when we consider rezones, we have to consider the appropriateness of the rezone that's being requested. And in this case, it is appropriate. So I'm going to support the rezone.
Okay. Jennifer?
Brown?
No.
Byers?
I just want to make a statement. Farm animals do have loving homes, and you said they don't. And I got about 70 head of cattle at home that are pretty well taken care of and loved and everything else. So just want to let you know.
Sorry, I mean, like, it's not as easy to home a pig as it is a dog, I don't mean that there's no loving homes.
When you milk cows for 26 years and you're there 7 days a week, you kind of got to love them. So just want to let you know that part, okay?
You just can't do that, in every home. It's really what
I will be a yes vote.
Murtaugh?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-25-CM passes 2-1.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we hear ordinance 2023-22-CM.
Second.
Thank you. Counsel?
Yeah, so this is an ordinance to prohibit retail sales of dogs and cats. And there'd been some comments based on the ordinance that reflected maybe a misunderstanding, and some of that has to do with how it's structured. So the purpose of the ordinance is to prohibit pet stores from making retail sales of dogs and cats. And the substance of the ordinance is found at way down in Section B. The way these things sometimes get drafted, we sort of bury the lead. But the rubber really meets the road down in Section B, where it says a pet store shall not sell, deliver, offer for sale, barter, auction, give away, or otherwise transfer or dispose of cats or dogs. However, nothing in this section shall prohibit pet stores from collaborating with animal care facilities or animal rescue organizations to offer space for such entities to showcase adoptable dogs and cats. And then Section A defines some of the terms found in Section B. And a lot of the confusion comes from the whereas paragraphs. They sort of show the intent, what you're trying to do, but they themselves don't have the force of law. So in those definitions, a pet store is defined as a retail establishment where animals are offered for sale to the general public. And the definition specifies that a, quote, animal care facility or an animal rescue organization is not considered a pet store. In other words, the ordinance doesn't apply to animal rescue organizations, and it doesn't apply if the entity is not a, quote, retail establishment. And then a retail establishment is defined as one where a person, in the course of the person's regularly conducted trade or business, acquires tangible property for the purpose of resale. So breeders would not be retail establishments because they're not reselling the dogs or cats, because they're not acquiring it from a third party. A change from the prior draft of this ordinance removed exceptions from the definitions of animal rescue organization. There'd been some qualifications of what would be an animal rescue organization. We took those out because they seem like edge cases. If it becomes a problem, you can look at that later. But an animal rescue organization is defined as a 501c3 not-for-profit whose mission or practice is, in whole or in part, the rescue and placement of animals in permanent homes. And again, the substance of this is at pet stores, not animal rescue organizations, but the ordinance specifically permits pet stores to collaborate then with animal rescue organizations to showcase adoptable dogs and cats. And then I'll just mention that it has a 90-day delay in enforcement if you were to adopt this.
And I just want to add that before we take comment on this particular ordinance, I just want to thank the folks. There's been a committee that's worked really hard to put this forward, that's been made up of the cities of Lafayette and West Lafayette, so that we can put forth a joint ordinance, and they'll be hearing their ordinances on first reading tonight. And then I also want to specifically thank the rescue groups who came forth with some suggestions, and we certainly appreciate their input as well.
Okay, with that, public comment.
I'd like to give you some photos and there's some pictures of puppies listed at a local store, some articles on predatory lending and selling sick animals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak today in support of this ordinance, which will ban the retail sale of cats and dogs. My name is Sharon Dahl. I'm the board president of the new Humane Society for Greater Lafayette, and I'm well-versed in animal welfare. As a quick background about retail pet stores, 99% of puppies sold in retail stores come from puppy mills. 93% of pet stores in the U.S. do not sell puppies and kittens and find the practice unethical and sorely outdated. Finding the practice unsavory and unethical, there are currently over 450 communities across the U.S., 7 entire states, including Illinois, and 18 communities in Indiana, including Marion County, that ban the practice of the retail sale of cats and dogs. Hundreds of lawsuits have been filed across the U.S. against Petland and other pet stores for their predatory lending practices, selling sick animals, and some financing plans charge as much as 189% interest rate. Today I'm going to talk about 2 specific retail pet stores, Indiana Online Puppies and Petland. In November of last year, I caught wind that Tippecanoe County had their very own puppy mill store in West Point called Indiana Puppies Online. The store is on the main drag in an unmarked building, no signage to indicate the type of business they're conducting. At that time, they had 48 small breed puppies for sale. I wasn't allowed in the back room where the puppies were housed. I had to look at pictures of the pups on a computer screen and pick which one I wanted to meet. I chose Tico, an 18-week-old Cavapoo, and he's the first picture I gave you. He'd been there for 10 weeks, and his cost was $1,200. Tico wouldn't make eye contact with me. He wouldn't play with me or the other puppies. He wouldn't move when I placed him on his back. And when I put him on the floor, he didn't change his position. He just stood where I placed him. The store offered financing, but they couldn't tell me the interest rate. All credit applications were online. I didn't have the option to take the application home to review prior to applying for credit. There was no background check. If I could pay for Tico, he was mine. If I wanted to purchase several dogs at the time, that wasn't a problem. They offered several levels of health guarantees for an extra cost, but the guarantees wouldn't exceed the cost of the dog. Each puppy is provided a small square of fake grass in their crate to defecate and urinate. None of the puppies are spay or neutered, which is required by law for every Indiana shelter and rescue prior to adoption. Nearly all the puppies require grooming. If you own a pet, you know veterinary and grooming costs have skyrocketed in recent years, and these are additional significant costs to the purchaser. I followed Tico online for several weeks and would check to see if he was still available for adoption. After 12 additional weeks, his cost was reduced to $900, and he eventually stopped appearing on their website. That pup was in a small crate for a minimum of 22 weeks, during the most critical period of his life for socialization. These pet stores prey on people who are making emotional decisions with no thought about the conditions of the animal or the high interest rates. Let me tell you, it took all my willpower to keep from bringing little Tico home. In this store alone, they offer 27 different breeds, and they currently list 81 puppies for sale. Total cost of all the puppies listed online exceeds $60,000. It's big business making a living off the backs of these animals. The West Point store is connected to a wider network of stores and online brokers called Little Puppies Online. They're a known puppy mill retailer and broker with stores in Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. Multiple stores have been issued non-compliances for lack of space, dead puppies, and overfilled cages. Knowing conditions are deplorable in many pet stores, I called animal control and asked for a wellness check on the puppies at West Point. Since there are no statewide regulations governing pet stores, the ACO had to rely on our county animal ordinances. Finding no dogs in imminent danger of dying, he wasn't able to remove any of the puppies. I called BOA, or Board of Animal Health, and they said due to the lack of laws and their inability to enforce anything, they couldn't help me. A few months later, I heard there was a bill introduced before the General Assembly by Petland, their lobbyists and other pet stores attempting to block Indiana counties from banning them, and they even went as far as to ignore home rule, trying to negate ordinances already in place. After my experience at Indiana Puppies Online, I felt compelled to testify in opposition. I hadn't been to a Petland store before, and I felt it only fair that I visit one myself prior to testifying at the State House. I went to their store in Westfield, Indiana. They had a Wheaten Terrier pup for sale, a breed I'm quite fond of. And that's the second photo in your stack. I have a Wheaten Terrier myself, but mine came from a shelter and not from a pet store. Just like Indiana Puppies Online, Petland has no protocols or screening for purchasers that reputable breeders, shelters, or rescues require. I spoke with the store manager and 2 employees and gave my name as a woman from Lafayette who was convicted of felony animal cruelty and neglect charges. I told them I lived in a small apartment, had no fenced-in yard, I had 4 other dogs, no treating veterinarian, and I worked long hours. And the reason I wanted a puppy was so I could breed and have lots of puppies and make lots and lots of money. Any one of these scenarios would have sent up a flag at any rescue or shelter. The only application Petland required was a credit application. The cost of the Wheaten pup was $6,100, and that's before tax. I told them I didn't have any money, and they offered 4 different financing options, one with an interest rate at 29%. Again, all credit applications were online, and I couldn't take the application home to review prior to applying for credit. They offered to finance the first $5,000 through their Petland credit card and the remainder with a different finance plan. If my credit was approved, I could take the pup home that very afternoon. If I changed my mind, I only had 48 hours to return it, and I'd receive a refund except for $700. After 48 hours, Petland would keep the full purchase price, and I could not return the dog. As an animal advocate, you might think I'm opposed to breeders. And while I certainly prefer people adopt animals from shelters and rescues, there are a lot of folks who want a breed-specific dog. There are many excellent breeders. They study the bloodlines to perfect the breed. They want purchasers to meet the mom and dad of the puppies and observe the conditions in which they're raised. They do background checks to ensure their puppies go to excellent homes. And if the purchaser gives up the dog, it must be returned to the breeder, regardless of age. Many breeders also help shelters and rescues find good homes. A good breeder would never sell their puppies to a retail store, ever. Every specific dog breed has a club with its own code of ethics, things required of all members. I researched 153 clubs, and every single club prevented members from selling puppies to wholesale and retail settings. As far as an attempt to pass legislation earlier this year by the retail pet stores and their lobbyists, their bill didn't survive. But they'll be back next year with more lobbyists and more money to prevent jurisdictions across Indiana from banning the sale of retail dogs and cats. Every single shelter and rescue in our county and across the nation were overwhelmed with abandoned and unwanted animals. They're bursting at the seams and at critical levels. The problem is so significant that Governor Holcomb just named this week adopt a Hoosier Shelter Pet Week to bring about awareness to the growing crisis that shelters and rescues are facing. Please help me encourage folks to spay and neuter their pets and promote responsible pet ownership to end this glut of unwanted animals. Adopt a dog or a cat from a shelter or rescue. If they insist on a breed-specific dog, they should do their research and go to a reputable breeder, not a pet store. Living off the backs of these animals without ethics is a shameful practice, and we need to protect the consumer from predatory consumer practices. The welfare of these animals is not a consideration. They're simply profitable merchandise. This is solely about one thing, and that's money. We can do better. We must do better. Please pass this important ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nathan Basler, owner of Indiana Puppies Online. Just a quick rebuttal to her. We've never had a single customer complaint, ever, from the Indiana Puppies Online store. We did, however, have somebody call the county on us, and we were inspected, and till now I didn't know who that was. Obviously, she's biased, and that's understandable. It's expected from the Humane Society director. But the county came in, they inspected us, and they were pleased with our operation. So I think just that, if you'd like to speak with that individual that came and inspected us, I think they would tell you the same thing, that they were pleased with what they told us. Bans like these are proposed all over the country. The verbiage is almost identical because it all begins with the Humane Society of the United States. Mind you, this group has very little affiliation with our actual Humane Society that's local. From reading the HSUS Form 990s, there's multiple reports that show HSUS only spends about 1% of their budget that actually goes towards helping the welfare of animals. The other 99% is spent towards wages and lobbying, like you see here today, of this ordinance to try to shut down our business, other businesses, farms, zoos, and change all kinds of rules that they don't want to have. I'll read you a quote from David Martosco. He was the director of research for the Center of Consumer Freedom in Washington, D.C. And that's important, consumer freedom, because that's what this is about. This is consumer choice. If you shut us down, they no longer have the choice to come to us. So it's not a free market anymore. He says, and I quote, "So HSUS uses public goodwill that it doesn't deserve in order to raise millions. And all that money gives HSUS the power to unfairly attack just about every segment of animal agriculture." End quote. I could stand here and talk all day about the damages the HSUS does to agricultural businesses and even zoos, because they seemingly have an endless budget to do so. We opened our location in West Point in July of 2022. We chose Tippecanoe County because of a connection we had with the Brose family, who has multiple farms in the area, and because we like the proximity to Lafayette and West Lafayette. Since we have opened, we've enjoyed success and been accepted by the community in most part. Our facility was built to USDA standards and has a state-of-the-art air filtration system that keeps the pups comfortable. We have outdoor play yards and full-time staff to take care of the pups. We have never had a single complaint, as I said before. In fact, our store has a much higher rating than any rescue in this county, as far as customer reviews are concerned. And each and every one of those reviews is real and can be verified. Since I found out about this proposed ban, I invited each of you guys, the commissioners, to come and visit our store. A couple of you have, and I appreciate that. We want to have total, complete transparency, and we will continue to do so. As I said, again, local animal control has already been there, and they were pleased with our operation. We spent over $200,000 opening this business. If this passes, I will be forced to sue the county for our losses. There is precedence in these lawsuits against these bans. Just recently, Manatee County in Florida overturned their ban because of a lawsuit. Not only is it a monetary loss, jobs will be lost, and our manager, Kenneth, who moved here to manage a store for us, uprooted his family, and he'll be out of a job, and our other employees will be out of a job, and our leaseholder will be out of a lease. Our taxes for this business are always paid on time, and there's absolutely zero facts that you could come up with to give legitimate reason to shut down our business. I'm certain that if you give the HSUS any sort of leverage in this county, it's nothing you want to do. I would assume Purdue in no way welcomes this. They have a program called Canine Cares, which is meant to bring up breeding standards for USDA kennels. If this passes, this is going to be nothing but a black eye on that program that they've worked very hard to build up and get spread across the country. I stand behind it, and I feel like this is maybe the reason why the HSUS is targeting this county, is because of this Canine Cares program. They don't want breeders to look good in any way, shape, or form. And that's what Purdue is able to do with their Canine Cares program.
Have you had the Canine Care organization come out? Because I talked to the veterinarian that's in charge of that. That's why I'm just curious.
No, as far as I know, the Canine Cares is only for the breeders. It's about the breeding program.
Okay.
So how is that relevant to your operation at all then? And I also spoke to the veterinarian who runs that program, and and I think what she's doing is good. I mean, she's setting standards and try to set a certification process for breeders.
Correct.
And I spent a lot of time talking to her about on the retail end, and she said, that is something we'd like to look at a component because down the road as a second phase to this. But they have not even started that process, so I'm not even sure how that's relevant to what you're doing.
Because the breeders that we get the dogs from are able to get on this Canine Cares program, and some of ours are.
Okay, but it's even after that, the conditions in any retail store aren't being...
They can. We welcome regulation for that.
Okay. Well,
more than happy to do that. And
if it was holistic, I think that would be relevant, from the breeder to the retail store, that could be something that could be considered at that point, but it's not at this point.
But if those breeders cannot sell their dogs to an individual or a company such as mine in the county where Purdue is that starts this program, I think it looks pretty bad. So, and as I said, I really hope you guys do the right thing. I welcome oversight and regulation. I just don't think banning is the answer. And I can't believe when reading this ordinance, it literally advocates for consumers to purchase puppies from unregulated sources, such as backyard breeders. That's where they're going to go.
But you're unregulated as well.
I am regulated in the state of Ohio, where my puppies come from, and so are the breeders.
Yeah, by USDA, which is not...
Correct.
Which isn't much, right?
Well, you don't have to like it, but it is the standard.
And I do thank you for the invitation to come out. I did spend some time there on Saturday, and I don't know much about your air ventilation system, but obviously it was, the smell was very bad once you enter the facility. And then when I toured the back rooms, I mean, there were 70 pups in a very small facility, multiple dogs in each cage. Those dogs, I was told, were being allowed out for 1 hour a day. There were employees there at the time, but there were no dogs outside. They were all in their cages.
Yeah, there is a rotation. Have you visited the rescues?
Yeah. So
all of them?
I have been to rescues, yes.
All the ones in the county?
Yes. Well, I would not say I've been to all of them, but I have been to rescues, yes.
Yeah, from my understanding, what I'm told from a local contractor that did work on one of the rescues, is that it's deplorable. And that's
Well,
one thing.
We have some rescues in the audience that I think would probably debate
Well, I'm
that.
sure we all disagree with that, or with different things, but, and I'm going to, try and confirm that as well. But that's what I've been told, and the reviews online are not good for that particular rescue as
Wow.
well. This ban also suggests that we can operate without selling puppies. There are, the main stores that are able to do that is Petco and PetSmart. I mean, they can go buy 20 truckloads of Purina dog food. So obviously, our cost basis, if we were to try and operate like they do, would be much higher and essentially just impossible to compete with them. I would be happy to propose legislation that I've proposed in another county that not only regulates pet stores, but also regulates the rescues. I think it should be an even playing field for all organizations that work with dog and cats, and should be something that we could all stand behind. I challenge you to ask these rescue organizations if they welcome regulation and inspections of their facilities. They will most likely give multiple excuses as to why they can't be regulated. And, I mean, when it comes to those, I'm not up here trying to ban rescues, and I never would. It wouldn't make any sense. I may stand up and say, let's regulate them, but to just shut down my competition, which is not even really relevant because my customers are not their customers. If you've been to the rescues, you see what the majority of them are filled with. I don't sell that type of dog. And I'll say the quiet part out loud. There isn't much difference, in my opinion, between a rescue and a pet store. It's not hard or expensive to get a 501c3. You change the wording from selling to adopt, and voila. You're the greatest person in the world, and everyone loves you. There's no regulation, and you do what you want. And I know for a fact that breeders sell puppies to rescues. I've seen it firsthand. We did a Freedom of Information Act for Humane Society and found out that they were importing puppies from a breeder in Puerto Rico. Just because they have the name rescue in their name does not mean they're great or do the right thing. I feel like most of them are probably trying to do the right thing. But with anything, without regulation and oversight, who knows what happens? You guys have any questions for me?
All I'm going to say is I totally agree with you about HSUS. So I'm not a big fan of them whatsoever, and they were actually in this ordinance, and I made sure that name was eliminated from this ordinance because.
But if you look at any of the ordinances around the country, like I said, they're all the same because this is where it originates from. They don't like me. I understand that. They don't like what I do. But they are behind it, 100%. And yes, they're terrible to dairy farms.
Everything.
Zoos. All they want to do is take over.
Any questions for Nathan? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
Morning.
I can take a few deep breaths after that. My blood pressure went a little up during that conversation, I'll be quite honest. But my name is Liz Stamper. I'm a Tippecanoe County resident. I also work for Best Friends Animal Society. We're a national animal welfare nonprofit focused on shelters. We're focused on reducing the killing and endless euthanasia for animals in sheltering facilities. Nationally, about 378,000 animals are killed in 2022 in sheltering environments. In Indiana alone, about 80,600 animals were euthanized in shelters. And these are animals that could have deserved or could have gained loving homes. These were not euthanized for medical reasons or severe behavioral reasons. This is the gap that's needed to get to that no-kill benchmark, and that, for definition, is 10% of animals that would be euthanized or killed due to medical or behavioral reasons that are deemed unsafe for the community, medically unable to move forward with their issues, whatever it might be. And we're looking at ways to really improve animal welfare statistics and animal welfare standards across the nation. In our county, there is 0 no-kill facilities since 2019. Almost Home Humane Society was no-kill in 2019, and they lost that status. There's been organizational changes, and now the new Humane Society is coming up, which is very exciting to hear about. There is a 102 animal gap within the county, and by bringing in these pet store ordinances, it is greatly impactful to animal shelters. We want to have this ordinance in place because by introducing these additional animals into our community, it's taking up space for these adoptable animals to be able to get into a home. And what happens is these animals do get adopted from these locations, and then they get surrendered to the organizations. They get surrendered to the shelters, they get surrendered to the rescues, and prior to joining Best Friends, I worked at the local Humane Society here for over 10 years. I oversaw the medical program for several years within that, and what I saw when we got in hoarding cases and puppy mill individuals, you could notice the behavioral flaws that they had, the body conditions that they came in with, their social issues were not up to par because they were in those cages during their socialization period. It is key to have them out and really introducing them to other animals, individuals, kids, whoever it might be, to get comfortable with them. So when you get these animals in, not only is it using taxpayer money to really help get them up to adoptable standards, making them a little bit more social, making sure that their matting issues are taken care of, making sure that everything else medically is up to par that they need to be to live a happy and healthy life, but it also, just takes up time and space in the shelters alone. Right now, across the country, we're seeing intakes continue to rise, but adoptions are not rising. We're seeing cats maintain the same, and dogs' adoption numbers are decreasing. And a lot of it is due to pet stores, breeding facilities, people wanting those fancy doodle mixes, which are mutts. And that's exactly what's in shelters, is mixed breed dogs who are also great, loving individuals who just need that opportunity. And they're getting overlooked by these puppy mills, by these pet stores. And there are national pet stores as well, like PetSmart, that do collaborate with shelters and rescues. They hold once-a-month events for rescues and shelters to come out and really do adoption events, get another broad audience out there if they're not able to make it to the facility, give them alternative hours. There are ways to make collaboration work, but by bringing in animals that don't need to be in our community because we have so many that need homes already, it just hinders that effort. Another thing that was brought up is Governor Holcomb this week declared Adopt a Shelter Pet Week, Adopt a Hoosier Shelter Pet Week to be precise. And this is because of those numbers that we're seeing in the shelters right now. Shelters are overwhelmed. Staff don't want to work there because of the cases that they're seeing come in on a daily basis. The pay is not there. They're just inundated with animals, and they're trying to find methods to have positive outcomes, and they're just not getting there. And it's these competitions that they're up against. It's really sad that we have all these animals in shelters and loving animals. I've had to drive shelter animals across state lines just to find adoptive homes because they've been so neglected in getting out there and being promoted as a loving adoptable pet. Animal shelters do get a bad stigma, but they're not bad animals at all. They're lost community members. That's all they are. And they need to have an opportunity to find adoptions. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
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 I'm Amber Kaiser. I'm a citizen of Lafayette. I think it's very important to understand that people who work in shelters and in rescues see the absolute worst in human beings. We see what human beings do to animals. We see how they are abused and how they are neglected and how they are treated as a commodity. We clean up the messes. We see the animals that most people walk by. I ask you to support this ban. I have nothing against good breeders with good ethics who follow rules of their clubs, of their breeders. I've had purebred dogs that I got for specific reasons. But I also have worked in hospice care for elderly dogs in the state of Washington for an organization that pulls them and gives them the best ending they can get. Many of our animals here in this state are dumped. They are not spayed and neutered, so we have a plethora of kittens. Kitten season is insane. Spend a few minutes scrolling through social media, and you will see anecdotal evidence that the sheriff's office said to go dump a box of kittens in a cornfield, that a shelter had no room, so they walked out with this box of kittens that they found. You will see cats running around our streets, feral cat colonies that people are trying to work with, trying to get them spayed and neutered so that we can decrease that population. Scroll through next door, you will see people who now have a very trendy dog that's hit teenage years that they don't know what to do with, and the dog is now free to a good home. They don't necessarily have an application process or a finder's fee or any sort of help to make sure that that actually is a good home. They just see a problem. Commercial breeding facilities, if you spend any time talking to undercover advocates, you will know that they overbreed. They breed the trendy dogs, the Frenchies, the Doodles, the things people will pay upwards of $6,000 for. They do not care about the health of the animals. I am asking you to care about the health of the animals. Plenty of pet stores across this country, small pet stores, I'm not even talking PetSmart, small pet stores have a wonderful business model that does not sell pets from commercial breeding. I ask that you not fall for the deflection and the threat that you got from the Indiana puppy online owner. I ask that you stand up for animals and that you support the work that is being done in this community to support the animals that are here, that don't have homes, and who need advocates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
I'll make this very brief. My name is Carmen, and I am a Tippecanoe County resident, and I'm here to support the ordinance. And not to get into the details of this West Point business in itself, I'm just looking at the broader issue of, as a county, do we want to endorse sales that are for profit only? This ordinance would not hurt any of the local pet stores because they have supplies, they have, training, they have, snacks, et cetera, et cetera. But it would address conditions for animals in the for-profit sale segment. And I'm just here to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
My name is Sandy. I wasn't planning on talking today, but someone got my blood boiling a little bit. I'm trying to calm down. As you see on my back, I'm with the Loving Heart Animal Shelter. I founded it in 2009. Since 2009, we've probably, I don't have the exact number, but it's probably about 7,000 cats and dogs that we've taken in from Lafayette, West Lafayette, and the Tippecanoe County. We don't go, once in a while I'll pull from the Kill Animal Control in Indianapolis because she emails me daily of these dogs that if I don't pull them, they're dead. Pretty much most of our animals have come from here. I don't go to Kentucky, I don't go to Ohio, I don't go out of the state to bring the dogs here because there's such a need here. And the gentleman talked about certain rescues here and how they take care of the animals. Our animals are very well cared for. They get out probably 5-6 times a day because we even go over at nighttime and let them out. Before I go home and go to bed to my own pets, I stop there and I let them out so they can go to the bathroom before they go to sleep. It irritates me. He keeps bringing up the bad reviews. Yeah, I'll admit I got some bad reviews. But the problem those came from was because I didn't give those people what they wanted. A lot of times it's they wanted a dog for me, and because I don't think it's the proper home for that dog, I deny them, and then I'm the bad person. I don't care if you want to call me any name in the book, but my job is to put these cats and dogs into the best homes possible, and I want them to go there and live the rest of their life. We don't have many returns. Usually it's because something happened with the family, whatever. It's never because they just don't want the dog anymore. I get so tired of the emails and calls every day that we receive from people that I just don't want my dog anymore. I don't have time for it, so I think the best thing for you to take it and put it in a cage and find it another home. A dog that they got as a puppy that's lived with them their whole life, and I'm just done, okay? It's your problem now. That's what they do to us shelters on a daily basis. I want to bring up that I also have a Maltipoo right now. He's a puppy because 2 senior people decided I want a puppy. I don't know where they got it, but I'm sure it was a breeder or maybe his facility, I don't know. And then once they got it home, oh my God, it's a puppy that pees and poops, it jumps, it bites, it's crazy, we can't do it, can you take it? So I have a really cute Maltipoo right now. 2 of my personal dogs are golden retrievers that are purebred that somebody went and bought from a breeder and then all of a sudden decided I don't want it. So you can, he tried to say that, you know, only thing in rescues and shelters are pit bulls. Yes, there is a lot of pit bulls. I wish we could do something about that, but it's not the majority because I get Goldens, I get a Maltipoo, I've had your little foo-foo dogs, that's what I call them. They're ankle biters. We have a big majority of dogs that come in, and then cats is just crazy. I don't know what the answer is with cats because they breed and multiply like rabbits. But anyway, I'm for the ordinance just because if he puts a dog in a home that just shows up and has the bank account to buy it, then I can't put a dog into that home that I might have had something that they wanted because they're not going to come look here because he has the service to say, here, you got enough money, you can have it. I don't care what kind of environment or what you're going to training you're going to do with it. We push that it's socialized, it goes to training, and we also do home visits. You just don't show up at the shelter and say, I want this dog, and I just say, okay, give me your money and you can go. I come to your house, I see everyone that lives there, I see what kind of home it is. So we put a lot into this, and I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I don't want something like this moving in here and making it worse, because when I started Loving Heart, I don't know if there was 8,000 dogs euthanized in Indianapolis alone in 1 year. That is absolutely crazy, and that's why I started Loving Heart, and I want to continue doing it. And if this doesn't pass and we keep having multiples and multiple, or some big place moves in here, it would be disastrous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Quickly, please.
So, someone stated about shelters being full because of maybe our store or other stores. Economic conditions right now are the reason. There was a COVID boom, and then everybody but puppies during COVID or got them out, rescued them, whatever. And now it's Google Trends, it's the lowest it's ever been since it's been tracked in 2004. The other thing I want to say is that all of our customers know that if they can't take their dog or take care of it, we will take it back. As far as I know as well, none of my dogs have ended up in the shelters because we always take them back. If we don't hear from them, we can't help that, but it's the same with people they're adopting dogs too. They don't know if they end up back in the shelters as well. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional public comment?
Murtaugh,
Yes.
Byers,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-22-CM passes 3-0 on first reading.
And we will hold second reading then, I would assume, at our next meeting this month.
Monday, November 20th.
That would be Monday, November 20th, to be heard on second hearing. We have Dr. Loomis. Health Department, Dr. Loomis, is he still in the house? There he is.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
I know, that doesn't hurt. 69 years, doesn't hurt. Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
We have a contract for you on a person, a 1099 for Marcus, or for Morgan Lucas for the Gateway to Hope program. We had one of our staff, when I mentioned before, a couple of meetings ago, that we wouldn't require any further personnel, but one of our staff was able to get her recovery coach degree and actually move forward to working with Phoenix on their quick response team. So this person is to fill that position. Yes, I do have it. Yep, it's in the car.
Mr. President, I move we approve this professional service agreement with Morgan Lucas with a compensation of $20 per hour and not to exceed $6,240 for Gateway to Hope.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning, Cindy.
Good morning. Obviously. He's unavailable today, so this is just a contract with People-Driven Technology to basically replace two of our firewalls that are ailing, they're aging, and it's been part of the long-term plan of basically restructuring our equipment, going to next-gen firewalls. It's going to give us a little added, give us some added tools, basically better logging so we can see what's going on with them, a little better protection, and at the same time, it's going to update the web filter. So we'll have, you know, a little more next-generation tools, but it was time. They were on our schedule to be done, and so just a very simple contract for that.
And the dollar amount's $9,435.
That's correct, and that'll basically get us in line with the sheriff's office, those two firewalls together, it'll get these replaced, get all the configurations pulled over, give a little training for our people, and then the next day they'll be available to help us if there's any issues following the next day, once the cutover is done. But we don't foresee anything other than this at this time. This should cover it.
I'll just mention, it's a little light as far as the contract goes, because it's a statement of work. We've got a base contract already, and that just adds another service.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the service agreement with People Driven Technologies as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Don't forget to sign in.
And that motion
Yeah,
passes.
Since I'm not on there.
I'm kidding. You know.
I'm going to, since I'm not listed. So you know I was here.
This is Jennifer's.
Oh, are you ready for me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm asking for you to approve an agreement for services with Dossett Consulting to prepare the county's cost allocation plan. And this just allows us to bill indirect costs for central services of the county to federal and state grants if allowed, and bring in the maximum that we can for those. And Dossett has several years of experience working with us on that.
And so you're recommending that 3-year option?
Yes, there's a 1-year option and a 3-year option, and I would recommend the 3-year.
And that's not to exceed $28,200?
If that's what that says,
Yeah,
yes.
yes, okay.
I don't have it in
All right.
front of me.
But that is over the 3 years?
Over the 3 years, yes.
I'll make a motion, we move forward with the professional services agreement with Dossett Consulting with the 3-year option.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 3-year option with Dossett Consulting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes.
Do you have a new sheet?
You don't have to sign in.
Good morning. I come to you this morning first to ask permission to apply for grants. The Health Department FEMA program would like to apply for funding from the National Center for Fatality Review and Prevention to provide capacity for supporting the work of the FEMA program here in Tippecanoe County in the amount of $50,500.
Mr. President, move to grant permission to apply as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes.
The Health Department would also like to apply for a grant through the Foundation of Greater Indianapolis in the amount of $15,000 to cover supplies needed for the Gateway to Hope.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we grant permission to apply.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
The Health Department also would like to apply for the Drug-Free Coalition of Tippecanoe County for continued support of the recovery coach position.
Mr. President, move to grant permission to apply as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Last one the Health Department's going to apply for is the Harm Reduction Street Outreach Team from DMHA. It's a continuation of the program they have in place.
Mr. President, move to grant permission to apply as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And Community Corrections would like to apply for the Drug-Free Coalition of Tippecanoe County for continued support of their related programs to reduce the amount of alcohol and other drug use and abuse in Tippecanoe County.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we grant permission to apply as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Youth Services has 4 different grants that they'd like to apply for. Can I do them all at once?
Yes.
Unless there are any objections from the commissioners.
Go for it.
So the 2024 Juvenile Behavior Health Competitive Grant Pilot Program, the 2024 Juvenile Community Alternative Grant Program, the 2024 Juvenile Diversion Grant Program, and the 2024 Title II Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act.
Mr. President, I move that we grant permission to apply to all 4 of these.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes.
The grants that we received awards for this year, or this month, the TEMA received the 2024 HMEP LAPC Training and Conference Award from IDHS in the amount of $19,850 to send delegates to the hazmat training conferences. There's no match to the county for this.
And what's HMEC?
Hazardous Material Emergency Preparedness Planning.
I see. Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we grant permission to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And through the Surveyor's Office, the WOW program received Duke Energy Foundation to supply needs for this upcoming program in 2024 in the amount of $7,500.
Mr. President, I move we grant permission to accept for the surveyor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Youth Services was awarded 2 programs, the FY24 Grant for Juvenile Community Corrections Discretionary Grant in $10,000.
I'll make a motion, we grant permission to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Youth Service Office also received the JDAI FY22 Performance Bonus Grant in the amount of $62,500.
Mr. President, move we grant permission to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Finally, I'd like to ask your permission to sign the MOU contract with Clarks Hill in contracting a funding match for the emergency water repair that they have.
Doug, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. This is a, this is a grant to Clarks Hill to account for the local match. They've got an emergency loan from the, National Rural Water Association. And it's structured, I don't know that there's a big chance of that, but it's structured so that if they have to use less than, I think it's 200,000 overall, that such that their local match obligation was reduced, then they'd have to pay us back. But I think we talked about it, and there doesn't seem to be a big chance of that, so probably it's the 66,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion, we approve the grant agreement as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. And then we have a memorandum of a grant agreement with Faith Community Development Corporation to assist them with the new skate park, and this is a partnership, obviously, between that corporation, the City of Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County for this park, and our contribution to that is $50,000 a year for a period of 4 years. And they're basically replacing the park that they have now, building it much larger. They've got significant buy-in from the community and some additional donations to finish that project out. So with that, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
We were notified by the Benton County Commissioners that they would like to appoint Morgan Wendler to the Otterburn Public Library Board. And he is replacing someone who has resigned, so he'll be finishing that term, and that will go through December 31st of 2024. So we need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Morgan Wendler to the Otterburn Library. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion is approved. Do we have any unfinished or new business to be brought before the board?
I have none.
Our reports on file are from the Building Commission, the Clerk of the Circuit Court, the Wabash River Heritage Quarter Commission. Those are all available after the meeting in our office across the hall. Any public comment?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
I guess I was closest.
Yeah, I was an hour short. I did say.
I seriously, got to jump on a phone call. I'll be right back.